The last thing we need to talk about is how to use the 5 number summary to identify outliers. We have informally identified out or defined outliers as values that lie very far away from a vast majority of the other data values in the set. But how do we define that specifically instead of just very far away? We need a rule or we need a definition of an outlier. So, well, let me finish this. Outliers have a dramatic effect on the mean and the standard deviation and on the histogram, so that sometimes the true nature of the distribution is totally obscured by the outlier. Your data can become very skewed to the left or very skewed to the right because of the inclusion of an outlier. So how do we identify the outliers? Well, once you have the 5 number summary of a data set, then you actually just use the first and the third quartiles to identify the outliers. You find the interquartile range, we mentioned that before, by subtracting the first quartile from the third quartile. And then the definition of outlier is any value which is more than 1.5 times the interquartile range below quartile 1 or more than 1.5 times the interquartile range above quartile 3. That's a difficult sentence, so this breaks it down in steps. Find the interquartile range, multiply 1.5 times the interquartile range, subtract that from the first quartile, add that to the third quartile, and then any values which are less than this answer in step 2 or more than this answer in step 3 are outliers. Let's do one example. For the 8 NCAA football coaches' salaries, the first quartile from the 5 number summary was 230,712. Read that straight off the calculator. The third quartile was 585,000. And so the interquartile range is the 585,000 minus the $230,712. That's a difference of $354,288. That's Q3 minus Q1. Then we need to find 1.5 times that. Take that product, subtract it from Q1, and add it to Q3. I've already done that. Q1 is this 230,712 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range and that gave me negative $300,720. In other words, to be on the low end of the outliers, you would have to be paying somebody $300,000 to let you coach. If your salary was less than negative $300,000, then yes, you would be an outlier for this data set. We don't have any of these coaches making less than $300,000. So, less than negative $300,000. So there are no outliers on the low end. How about the high end? The third quartile is 585,000 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. I got that to be $1,116,432. So any one of these any one of these salaries that's more than $1,116,432, that's an outlier. The only one of these that is more than $1,116,000 is the $1,231,421. So any salaries less than negative 300,720, and we already said there weren't going to be any salaries less than that, or greater than $1,116,432. Anything outside this range would be an outlier, and there's only one. Alrighty, that is everything in sections 3.3 and 3.4. I believe that is assignment 6 in my Labs Plus now, not my Stat Lab. And I hope you enjoy the cartoon of the day. This is hanging on my husband's mirror. He sees it every day. Love letter from a statistician. If you really want to tell somebody that they're outstanding, far beyond anyone you know, or far beyond 99.7% of the population, got that from empirical rule, just let them know they're 3 standard deviations above the norm. Thank you. Have a great day.